Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into the life of Maria Montessori. Now, you've probably seen her name on schools, right? But the woman behind the method was so much more than just an educator. She was a physician, a scientist, and honestly, a revolutionary who completely challenged how the world saw children.
So let's jump right in with one of her core ideas. This quote, it gets right to the heart of everything she believed. For centuries, she said, we've been telling kids to be quiet, to sit still, basically confusing being good with being completely immobile. And we were punishing them for being what they are naturally, active, curious, and full of life.
And you can really see the two worlds clashing right here. On one side, you have the old school 19th century model, where kids were basically seen as these empty jars you just pour facts into. On the other side, Montessori's vision, kids as active explorers, hardwired with this desire to learn and become their own person. This wasn't just a tweak to the system. It was a total, fundamental rethinking of a child's role in their own life.
To really get what a rebel she was, we have to go back in time, to her world. We're talking late 19th century Italy. It was a new country, sure, but its institutions, especially its schools, were seriously stuck in the past.
Imagine this. School was pretty much a place of punishment. Kids sat bolted to their desks for hours, just memorizing stuff under these bitter, overworked teachers. The whole point wasn't to spark curiosity or a love of learning. Nope, it was about drilling facts and demanding obedience. It was a system almost perfectly designed to crush the very spirit that Montessori wanted to set free.
And on top of all of that, if you were a brilliant young woman like Maria, well, society had a very, very clear and very limited plan for you. Even her own father just expected her to get married and have kids. The idea of her chasing a career in science or medicine, it wasn't just weird. It was seen as a threat to the family, to the entire social order.
But Maria? No way. She flat out refused to accept the life everyone had planned for her. She made up her mind. She was going to become a doctor, and nothing was going to stand in her way.
And let me tell you, her path was an uphill battle the entire way. She defied her father, who was absolutely furious with her. She even got rejected from medical school at first, but she just kept pushing, kept fighting, and in 1896, she did it. She completely shattered expectations and graduated as a doctor in a world that told her it was impossible.
Okay, and this is the part you really need to get. Her background wasn't in education. It was in science and medicine. And fields like anthropometry taught her how to be a ridiculously meticulous observer. She learned to measure, to record, to analyze, all with scientific precision. And these were the exact skills she was about to turn from studying adult bodies to studying the minds of children.
So her work as a doctor takes her to some of the toughest places in Rome, the psychiatric clinics, the asylums, and there she met children that society had just completely written off. Kids labeled deficient or idiotic, locked away with absolutely no stimulation, no hope. Working with these children, she started using some special sensory-based materials and saw, well, astonishing results. Kids who were considered unteachable actually started to learn. And that's when the light bulb went off. It was this huge realization. If her methods could unlock the potential in these forgotten children, what could they do for all children?
And look, she wasn't some academic just sitting around with theories. She decided to put her ideas to the ultimate test. She opened a school for the children of poor, illiterate workers in one of the roughest, most run-down neighborhoods in Rome. It was basically a scientific experiment, but it was also this little beacon of hope in a really dark place.
This children's house was just completely different from any school you can imagine. The focus wasn't on sitting still and listening. It was all about practical life. The kids learned to take care of themselves, to take care of their classroom, and this wasn't just about chores. It was about building concentration, coordination, independence, and a real sense of purpose.
And the results? They were absolutely astounding. Kids had what she called an explosion into reading and writing, all on their own. This story about young Antonio just perfectly captures that moment of pure, joyful discovery. It was proof positive that learning isn't something you force on a child. It's a natural drive just waiting to be unleashed.
The success of that first children's house wasn't a slow burn. It went viral, 1907 style. Word spread like wildfire. Pretty soon you had educators, journalists, thinkers from all over the world making a pilgrimage to this little slum in Rome to see what all the fuss was about. And this chart, it shows you the revolution in a nutshell. In your typical school, the teacher is up at the front running the whole show. But in a Montessori classroom, the teacher kind of fades into the background. They become a guide, an observer. The whole center of gravity shifts from the adult to the child, who's now free to choose their own work.
Of course, with all that fame came new problems. Everybody wanted to cash in on her success. So she had to fight tooth and nail to protect the integrity of her method. She insisted that if you were going to be a Montessori teacher, you had to be personally trained by her to make sure her ideas were actually understood, not just turned into a bunch of commercial toys.
So, when you boil it all down, after a whole lifetime spent crisscrossing the globe, training thousands of teachers, and living through wars and massive political change, what is her real, lasting legacy? What should we take away from her incredible journey?
It really comes down to these powerful ideas, that we have to respect the child, period, that their minds are like little sponges, soaking up everything around them, that kids are naturally driven to do meaningful work, not just laze around, that real freedom and self-discipline, they're two sides of the same coin. And maybe the most profound idea of all, that education, done right, could be the key to building a more peaceful world.
And that's the thing. In the end, her greatest gift wasn't just a curriculum or a set of classroom materials. It was a radical, powerful shift in perspective. She asks us to look at a child and see not what they lack, but the incredible potential they already hold inside them. And to see our job not as instructors who pour in knowledge, but as guides who simply help that inner light to shine.